meditate on Sri Ramakrishna, whose teachings we are studying today. Let us pray to him for the peace and prosperity for the whole humanity. Shanti Shanti Hari Om Tat Sat. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avataravadishthaya Ramakrishnaya te namah. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the Supreme God incarnate, the embodiment of all gods and goddesses, who practiced all religions of the world and integrated them all, who gave practical teachings so that we may all go in our spiritual path without any difficulty. Spiritual path, it is the path of knowledge. It is the light of knowledge. Worldly life is darkness of ignorance. The more we are pursuing the world, the more we go deep into ignorance. The more we are ignorant, the more we become susceptible to suffering. So, everybody will have to have spiritual approach to experience real peace and joy. So, Sri Ramakrishna gives many instructions so that we may try to follow them. They are not difficult, they are intensely practical, they can be followed by anybody in this world. What is needed is sincerity. So, Sri Ramakrishna, while giving his instructions, he tells about death. What is the mystery of death? We do not know when death would come. This life may end at any time. Nobody knows. And nobody can remain eternal in the body. Whatever that is born should die. So, we should understand certain principles and accordingly we should prepare ourselves. We should equip ourselves for the journey with spiritual treasures. Suppose you are going to an unknown place. If you go empty-handed, you may involve difficulties and you may suffer too because you don't have anything. It is just like that. At death, it is as if we are going to an unknown place. We don't know where we go. So, it follows we must prepare well for the journey. One thing very important we should impress on our mind, that real joy or real peace is very, very rare in this world. And this round of birth and death that is ours, no one can check. No one has any hand in it. It is God alone responsible for the creation, maintenance and dissolution of this world. Srishti Sthiti Laya. And it is by His will that all beings are born into it. He keeps them all as long as He wants, and He takes them away whenever He wishes. So we should know for certain that God is the Lord of birth, the Lord of maintenance, and the Lord of death. It is He who sends souls here to become parents, to become wives, to become children, to become friends and relatives and so on. And it is He who keeps them all entangled in some relationship or other, taking them back whenever He wants. So what is death? It only destroys the gross body, but the senses, the mind and intelligence, they all remain in a subtle form. They won't die. They go along with the soul. Death is only to the physical body. So, the name you take or the thoughts you have at the time of your death will determine your destination after death. At the time of death, the person loses his wits. He becomes enveloped in a sort of mental darkness. If only once he can utter the name of God at that time, he may be saved as God takes charge of him. That means if he has to think about God at the hour of death, he will have to constantly repeat the divine name all through before arriving at the hour of death. That means one should acquire the habit of constantly thinking of God by long practice. Then everything becomes clear. The darkness of ignorance is cleared off. If a person is not habituated to think about God or divine, everything becomes confused on account of the pangs of death, and he cannot think of God even once. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling that it is necessary for us to constantly meditate on the Divine Lord and pray to Him every day without telling any reasons, without grumbling. Simply we should do it, that's all. First do it, then talk about it if you want. Doing is very necessary. That is discipline. Whether you are in good health or bad health, whether it is summer or winter or rainy season, whatever it is. Every day, as soon as I wake up, I must think of God. That only helps us, nothing else in this world. Actually, at the time of death, there is a battle between the prana and an outer force. But we should not imagine that they are two different forces. They are like two concentric circles, the inner one trying to break the outer one. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling pointedly that the body and the soul, they are distinct. The body was born and it will die. But for the soul, there is no death. So Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of betel nut. When the nut is ripe, it doesn't stick to the shell. But when it is green, it is difficult to separate it from the shell. So, through our spiritual practices, if we have the glimpses of the reality, then we do not identify ourselves anymore with the body. We will know clearly that body and soul are two different things. Now, Sri Ramakrishna is telling God, the Supreme Brahman, and the primordial power through which the whole creation is manifested are identical. They are like gem and its brilliance. You cannot think of the brilliance without the gem, or of the gem without its brilliance. So, this life is to be prepared properly for the journey which we have undertaken. Knowingly or unknowingly, we are all traveling. We are all approaching death. The moment we are born, the next moment we are approaching the death. So, the opportunity given to us must be used properly. Let us not grope in the darkness. Let us take the path of light, spiritual path. Even though you may be living in the world, carrying all sorts of duties and doing all sorts of things, yet you should not forget your spiritual ideal. If you forget it, then who can save? We must follow the instructions of the Mahatmas when they say, don't do this, please do like this. We should follow them. If we become abstinent, no, we will go in our own way. We don't need God now. If we have that abstinency, well, God doesn't want to force us, all right? If you want to enjoy darkness, go ahead, don't complain. Your complaints will not be answered. That's the point. So, in the last class which I read, only this particular topic on death, which I am trying to elaborate. So whatever that you see manifested, it goes to unmanifested state. That's the truth. So, we must assert our spiritual strength, follow the spiritual path with all zealousness, and face the problems of life. Life means it is full of problems. If we know that fact, it will minimize our suffering. We need not have to suffer. By worrying about the suffering, we don't get any relief. On the other hand, facing them calmly, taking corrective measures, and praying to the Lord. That's the way we should take up and practice in our daily life. So now we shall read some of the passages today. Chapter 15. Sri Ramakrishna is telling, why do I feel so restless for Rakal, Narendra and the other youngsters? Hazra once asked me, when will you think of God if you are always anxious about these boys? Keshav and others smiled. Sri Ramakrishna said, that worried me greatly. I prayed to the Divine Mother, Mother, see what a fix I am in. Hazra scolds me because I worry about these young men. Afterwards, I asked Bholanath about it. He said to me that such a state of mind is described in the Mahabharata. How else will a man established in Samadhi occupy his mind in the phenomenal world? after coming down from samadhi. That is why he seeks the company of devotees endowed with sattva. Otherwise they cannot remain in the body. The body drops off. So they want to hold on to certain things so that to retain their life. They want to share their experience, their joy with the people so that they are relieved of their suffering. That's why a person who has attained samadhi seeks the company of devotees endowed with sattva. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, I gave a sigh of relief when Bholanath told me of the Mahabharata. Hazra, a devotee, he is not to blame. During the period of struggle, one should follow the method of discrimination. Not this, and direct the whole mind to God. But the state of perfection is quite different. After reaching God, one reaffirms what formerly one denied. To extract butter, you must separate it from buttermilk. Then you discover that the butter and buttermilk are intrinsically related to one another. They belong to the same stuff. The butter is not essentially different from the buttermilk. Yet nor the buttermilk essentially different from the butter. After realizing God, one knows definitely that it is He who has become everything. In some objects He is manifested more clearly and in others less clearly. When a flood comes from the ocean, all the land is deep underwater. Before the flood, the boat could have reached the ocean only by following the winding course of the river. But after the flood, one can row straight to the ocean. One need not take a roundabout course. After the harvest has been reaped, one need not take the roundabout course along the back of the field. One can cross the field at any point. After the realization of God, He is seen in all beings, but His greater manifestation is in man. Again, among men, God manifests Himself more clearly in those devotees who are sattvic, in those who have no desire whatever to enjoy lust and gold. Where can a man of samadhi rest his mind after coming down from the plane of samadhi? That is why he feels the need of seeking the company of pure-hearted devotees endowed with sattva and free from attachment to lust and gold. How else could such a person occupy himself in the relative plane of consciousness? He who is Brahman, he is the Adya Shakti, the primal energy. When inactive, he is called Brahman, the Purusha. He is called Shakti or Prakriti when engaged in creation, preservation and destruction. These are the two aspects of reality, Purusha and Prakriti. He who is the Purusha is also Prakriti. Both are the embodiment of bliss. If you are aware of the male principle, you cannot ignore the female principle. He who is aware of the father must also think of the mother. Keshav laughs. He who knows darkness also knows light. He who knows night also knows day. He who knows happiness also knows misery. You understand this, don't you? Keshav said, yes sir, I do. Sri Ramakrishna said, my mother. Who is my mother? Oh, she is the mother of the universe. It is she who creates and preserves the world, who always protects her children, and who grants whatever they desire, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. A true son cannot live away from his mother. The mother knows everything. The child only eats, drinks and makes merry. He doesn't worry himself about the things of the world. Keshav said, yes sir, it is quite true. While talking, Sri Ramakrishna regained the normal consciousness of the world. With a smile on his face, he conversed with Keshav. The room full of men watched them eagerly and listened to their words. Everybody was amazed to find that neither Keshav nor the master inquired about each other's health. They talked only of God. Master said to Keshav, why do the members of the Brahma Samaj dwell so much on God's glories? Is there any great need of repeating such things as, O God, thou hast created the moon, the sun and the stars? Most people are filled with admiration for the garden only. How few care to see its owner. Who is greater, garden or its owner? After a few drinks at a tavern, do I care to know how many gallons of wine are stored there? One bottle is enough for me. When I met Narendra, I never asked him, who is your father? How many houses does he own? Shall I tell you the truth? Man loves his own riches, so he thinks that God loves his too. He thinks that God will be pleased if we glorify his riches. Once Shambhu Malik said to me, please bless me that I may die leaving my riches at the lotus feet of God. Sri Ramakrishna said, I answered, these are riches only to you. What riches can you offer God? To him, these are mere dust and straw. Once a thief broke into the temple of Vishnu and robbed the image of its jewels. Mathur Babu and I went to the temple to see what was the matter. Addressing the image, Mathur Babu said bitterly, what a shame! Lord, you are so worthless. The thief took all the ornaments from your body and you couldn't do a thing about it. He is scolding God. Thereupon, Sri Ramakrishna said, I said to Mathur, shame on you. How improper your words are. To God, the jewels you talk so much about are only lumps of clay. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is his consort. Do you mean to say that he should spend sleepless nights because a thief has taken your few rupees? You must not say such things. Can one ever bring God under control through wealth? He can be tamed only through love. What does he want? Certainly not wealth. He wants from his devotees love, devotion, feeling, discrimination and renunciation. One looks on God exactly according to one's own inner being. Take for instance a devotee with an excess of tamas. He thinks the Divine Mother eats goat, so he slaughters one for her. Again the devotee endowed with rajas cooks rice and various other dishes for the mother. But the sattvic devotee does not make any outer show of his worship. People don't even know he is worshipping. If he has no flowers, he worships God with mere Ganges water and the leaves of bale tree. His food offering to the deity consists of sweet and puffed rice or a few candies. Occasionally he cooks a little rice pudding for the deity. There is also another class of devotees, those who are beyond the three gunas. They have the nature of a child. Their worship consists in chanting God's name, just his name. To Keshav with a smile, why is it that you are ill? There is a reason for it. Many spiritual feelings have passed through your body, therefore it has fallen ill. At the time an emotion is aroused, one understands very little about it. The blow that it delivers to the body is felt only after a long while. I have seen big steamers going by on the Ganges at the time of hardly noticing their passing. But oh my, what a terrific noise is heard after a while when the waves splash against the banks. Perhaps a piece of the bank breaks loose and falls into the water. An elephant entering a hut creates havoc within and ultimately shakes it down. The elephant of divine emotion enters the hut of this body and shatters it to pieces. Do you know what actually happens? When a house is on fire, at first a few things inside burn, then comes the great commotion. Just so, the fire of knowledge at first destroys such enemies of spiritual life as passion, anger and so forth. Then comes the turn of ego, and lastly a violent commotion is seen in the physical frame. You may think that everything is going to be over, but God will not release you as long as the slightest trace of your illness is left. You simply cannot leave the hospital if your name is registered there. As long as the illness is not perfectly cured, the doctor won't give you a permit to go. Why did you register your name in the hospital at all? Keshav laughed again and again at the master's allusion to the hospital. Then Sri Ramakrishna spoke of his own illness to Keshav. Hriday used to say, never before have I seen such ecstasy for God, and never before have I seen such illness. I was then seriously ill with stubborn diarrhea. It was as if millions of ants were gnawing at my brain. But all the same spiritual talk went on day and night. Dr. Ram of Natagore was called in to see me. He found me discussing spiritual truth. What a madman, he said. Nothing is left of him but a few bones, and still he is reasoning like that. Master said to Keshav, all depends on God's will. O Mother, all is done after thine own sweet will. Thou art in truth self-willed, Redeemer of mankind. Thou workest thine own work. Men only call it theirs. We shall stop here. Any questions? Yeah, Sri Ramakrishna is telling you should prepare for journey with not with empty hand. Yeah, that means with spiritual treasures. So you develop love and devotion to God, to the deity whom you are worshipping. Then carry on your journey. You are going to unknown place. These will help. Spiritual treasures. Then you are not afraid of death at all. As long as you have got money, you are not afraid of things. I can manage, I can stay in hotel, I can do this, I can do that. In the same way, if you have spiritual wealth with you, wherever you go, you don't feel bothered, you are not bothered about. This journey is continuous till we reach our goal. We carry on the journey, continuous journey. Yeah, only this physical body drops off, but the subtle body keeps on going and takes another body, until he understands and realizes the reality. Till then, these births and deaths continue. So, the point is, we don't have choice. We don't have choice as long as our mind is not directed to spirituality. So, when we have no choice, then God is the dispenser of our actions. Whatever good and bad we have done, cause and effect, they come into play. They throw you, go, take this body, enjoy, go, take this body. So, we are bound by our own actions, good and bad. That means we are bound by three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. So, if we keep on remembering God, then we are not to worry about what might happen. Because whatever might happen, God takes care of that. That's the important point Sri Ramakrishna is telling us. That means if we take God as our protector, guide and everything, it follows that we should maintain certain amount of purity in our dealings. That means we should not allow ourselves, we should not be corrupt in our manners and actions and things. So it follows that we should practice all the ethical, moral and spiritual values. We should stop criticizing the people and the world. That will not solve the problem. So, by directing the mind to God and carry on the life, our main focus should be to realize God, and we must use all our means towards achieving that goal. Then it is possible to have the experience. There is a story of Sudama, a great devotee of Lord Krishna. Actually, they were friends. Both Sudama and Krishna, they studied under the same guru. Afterwards, Krishna became the king of the Mathura, Dwarka, and Sudama was a poor Brahmin, but poor in the worldly sense, but very rich in the spiritual sense. He was very rich. Always he would meditate on God and concentrate on Him, and so he was not bothered about anything of the world. He had many children. He had his wife, plenty of children, but nothing to eat. Their children are starving, and if there is food for one day, There is no food for next day. So the whole family is passing through tremendous hardship. Then one day the wife called her husband and told, "What is this? So much of suffering, we don't have things, what to cook, what to give to our children. And you have been telling that Krishna was your friend and now Krishna is in Dwaraka. Why don't you go and tell him about what we are suffering now? He may help you." So she compelled him to go. But with all these difficulties, with all this poverty, he never stopped doing spiritual practices. All the time he was thinking. But when the wife pressed him to go to Krishna, mentally he felt very happy because now the opportunity has come for him to see Krishna. And then the wife said, "It's not proper for you to go in an empty hand." So somehow she procured some flattened rice and tied it in a corner of the cloth so that should be given to Krishna. That was the idea. Then Sudama went there and Krishna treated him very well. He gave him oil bath and he made him sit on the throne and he worshipped his feet because he is coming from a Brahmin family. Those days they used to respect Brahmins and it was a tradition. If the Brahmin comes, they should wash his feet. That was the tradition because they would follow the life also that way, disciplined, austere life. So Krishna himself washes the feet and everything. And then Krishna himself tells him, "What have you brought for me? What have you brought for me?" And he himself puts his hand. And Sudama was so shy to even open it because after all, what is that? It is a flattened rice. But Krishna took it. Then wife had told clearly to ask Krishna to him. He totally forgot what his wife had told. Then everything was over, then he's taking leave and he's coming back. When he was halfway, then he remembered, "Arey, my wife told me to ask Krishna about removing poverty. How is it I couldn't remember at all? And what my wife would think? She will ask me first question, did you ask Krishna about what shall I answer?" But anyway, then he prayed again to Krishna to save him from this predicament. But when he returned home, what a change. There was a palace in the place of the hut. Plenty of riches, everything was there. Even without Sudama's asking, Lord Krishna has granted everything to him. So, what is wanted here, we should conduct ourselves properly in whatever situation we are living in. Accept what they are and practice your spiritual devotions. That's all. And at the right time you will get peace, joy, everything will be given to you. That's the way how we should find peace in this world. Otherwise, where is peace here? Every day there will be tremendous restlessness, cause for becoming restless. There are so many reasons to become restless. Valid reasons are there. Circumstances force you to become restless. You can't avoid. It's just like going in the road. If there is too much of pollution, you may not like to inhale it, but it goes into your system. It's just like that. We are living in a polluted surroundings, polluted society, polluted atmosphere, polluted everywhere. There is no other goal, there is no other way. Wherever you turn, there is pollution. So, really terrible. That is why we should not lose sight of our spiritual aspirations. So, we should keep on practicing spiritual disciplines. That's all. See, God is no respecter of beings means that He is impartial. Whoever it may be, if he does wrong, he will have to undergo certain atonement for the wrong things done. That's the meaning of He is no respecter of persons. But if a person is really a devotee of God, by that virtue, he will be able to manifest the divine qualities in his life so that he is helpful and serviceable to the people. So, by loving God, you are loving the people. If you hate anybody, that means you are going against the law of God. A lover of God should not hate anybody, any creature, animate or inanimate. All the things are to be adored. So that reverence must be shown to the whole creation. So that way we should set the ideal. So if sometimes we may be doing some kind of spiritual practices in our life, but then we may develop some kind of ego, oh, I am practicing so much, I am superior to all these people. What do they know? They know nothing about spirituality. I know everything. So that kind of vanity, if it comes, even though he is practicing spirituality, God will not keep quiet. He will crush his ego. So that is the meaning of God is no respecter of persons. One may be a king, one might have very high position in the society. The whole world may adore him. But God sees the purity of the person. If the person is pure, even if he is the poorest of the poor, he is highly respected. If the person is not pure, if he is mischievous and violent, even if he is a king, he is not to be respected by God. So that is the attitude, that is the way. Yeah, it is when the body dies means the soul residing in the body is pushed out of the body and the body drops off. You know, this body is made up of, if the body disintegrates, the water element goes to water, the heat element goes to fire, like that. But what is not destroyed is the soul and mind and the senses. So the senses and the mind are called the subtle body, S-U-B-T-L-E, Sukshma Sharir. There is no death for the subtle body, death only for the gross body. When that means the soul encased in this body, he is leaving this body. The container is destroyed. Death means destruction of the container. The soul escapes. The soul goes out. But then what happens after the death? Where does it go? Who determines that? What is his next course? What type of birth he should take? Who will decide all those things? It is God, the impartial, divine power, that decides. How he decides? There are millions of beings. How God is able to decide everyone? So he has framed his own law. That is law of action, cause and effect, good and bad. Whatever the soul has done through the body, the resultant effect of good and bad is registered in the mind in the form of impressions. So those things will determine the future course of life which the soul has to take. Suppose I am engaged in this life, every day coming to Vedanta society and trying my best to do some prayers and trying to correct myself, so on and so forth. If I am very serious about these things, if these thoughts are very prominent in my life, then they form a strong impression in my mind. And when I leave this body, again I take another birth, which helps me to go further, to practice my spirituality in a much vigorous way. So like that, that's all. Who? They can see death? No. Unconscious means they are just like they are not aware of anything, that's all. They are not aware of it. Death means he is no more be able to live in the body. Then it's called death. Like who? Ajamil. He did not die actually. He was on the point of death. And in the mental state, he saw things going on, a conversation between the divine messengers and the messengers of death about him. He heard everything. And that conversation actually awakened him in a way. Yes, what a terrible state I have gone through. And so, because he was leading a very austere life before, and that had very good impression in his mind. So again, when he became all right, he became more vigorous and repented for what he had done in the past, and he completely, totally dedicated himself to spiritual practices, and finally he got himself liberated. Moksha means he is no more entangled in suffering, and he is no more to be pushed down to take bodies and entangle himself in all sorts of things. He is liberated from bondage. That means he is liberated from ignorance. No. How does he know? Who knows? Who should know? The person who is liberated, he is liberated. That's all. The person who is liberated. And that is why they show the way of getting liberation. You follow the spiritual path and you will be liberated from bondage. Yeah, realizing God means liberation. Soul, it is soul that makes journey. Subtle body by itself cannot do anything. The subtle body goes along with the soul. There is no death for the subtle body until he realizes the truth. The subtle body keeps on going. Subtle body is a recording machine. It is a recording equipment. It records whatever you are doing, good or bad. Yeah, everything. Whatever you do in millions of births, all those things are stored up there. It should be. There is no old or young as far as soul is concerned. Soul is actually, there is no age. It is ageless. It is neither young nor old. This age comes only to the body, not to the spirit. Soul is a spirit, the consciousness. No, it doesn't include the prana. Only indriyas, that is organs, eyes, this subtle, the powers through which I see, the power through which I hear, the power through which I speak. These are the senses. Senses and the mind, they go along. Prana comes in. When it takes another body, it takes in the prana. Prana enters into it. Yeah, that is, that's what I am telling. The birth of the soul is directed by God Himself through the process of cause and effect, law of the doctrine of karma. That comes into play. So after the death, the soul remains for certain time in a disembodied state, and afterwards it is forced actually to go into a particular way and take the birth. Suppose it has to be born as an animal, it has to go and take it goes and enters this. So the spirit enters the food which is taken by the particular animal through whom this soul has to be born. He enters that animal through that food, like that. So whatever way the soul has to enter, it's a very intricate how the soul enters the body, and it is done like that. Whatever body it has to take, whatever it determines whatever the predominating thought one has in the mind at the hour of death, that determines the future course of action. No, that is true. No, that actually it enters into the sperm. The sperm, yeah, it starts from there. But before any formation takes place, the sperm is responsible. It goes through the sperm. Yeah. But anything that takes shape, you see, that did not form before the sperm entered into it. The sperm is responsible for everything. Consciousness, everything is in a very subtle way. We are not able to perceive it. It becomes manifest only after a certain stage. Everything is hidden. Everything is hidden. It develops, it manifests stage by stage. But all that thing is there in that sperm. It's called Jivakana. They call in Sanskrit Jivakana. So that's how it works. Inanimate object, in one way, we understand the play of the soul only when it is manifested in certain ways, then we understand. But one way of telling is that consciousness is present everywhere. Charachara vastu. God is present, animate, inanimate and inanimate, both. That power is there everywhere. but we are able to understand it. You see, for example, the soul may be there, it is there no doubt, but its power is not manifested because it has no mind. The mind is not there. For example, there is a famous story in Ramayana that comes, that Ahalya, the wife of Gautama Maharshi, who became stone, big rock. She was a rock. So she was to be redeemed from that state only by the touch of Sri Ramachandra's feet. And Vishwamitra Maharshi, taking these children, this Rama and Lakshman, Vishwamitra tells, come, we shall go there. We have to go to Gautama Ashram. We have to do certain things there. Then Sri Rama, as soon as he went and he touched the rock, immediately that rock broke and Ahalya came out. That's the thing. So, for example, if you take a stone, the stone has got its own properties. So that means without the soul, how the properties form there. So everything has got its own way of manifesting its energy. In that sense, everything has got power. What exactly is the nature of the soul? Whom do you call soul? If you call spirit combined with subtle body is called soul, in that sense, soul means it must have mind and everything. Then you may say it doesn't have soul. Like that. Alright, we shall stop here. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. O name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself, O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass, be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue. The playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I am reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's beautiful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years. When my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stealest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people. May the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good. May the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time. May the earth be blessed with crops. May all countries be freed from calamity. May holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.